This is the first video of the channel. It's gonna probably be really scuffed, like I'm not sure if my webcam quality is like complete ass or not, but without further ado, this is the deck that I won my locals with, and this was for the premiere event for Blazing Vortex. Now, first off, I want to say I'm really excited to get my hands on all the Armed Dragon stuff. Expected deck profile for that soon. But yeah, we got this Armed Dragon Field Center, two Armed Dragon mouse pads, one from the raffle, one from actually winning the tournament, and then we won one Armed Dragon Flash Ultra Rare for winning the tournament as well, so that was really cool. So here's the deck that I played. I played Lair of Darkness. I only played this deck because I thought it would be a fun time. I really didn't have any intentions of winning this event. You know, I've topped plenty of times, but I've never really won an event, so this was just something that was incredibly unexpected for me, and I normally play stuff like Eldritch and Virtual World, so my mind is just blown right now. I can't believe I won with this. Like, it's crazy. But you guys were asking for the deck profile, so I'm going to go ahead and show you all of my card choices. I played 3 of the actual, you know, spell itself, Lair of Darkness. Changes everything to Dark attribute, which messes with a lot of decks like Invoke, since they can only make Kaliga and stuff. You contribute your opponent's dark monsters. They're all dark, so that just works out really well. And then it summons tokens depending on how many monsters were tributed during that turn player's turn, and then that turn player gets those tokens. So it does a lot of unique stuff. It's a really cool field spell, and it's one of the best field spells in the game in my opinion. And I just feel like there's a lot of hidden potential with this, but for now we're just playing in archetype stuff. I want to see Lair of Darkness as much as humanly possible, so I played the one Terraforming and the one Metaverse. Metaverse is good too because it helps keep it on the field. Then, like I said, I want to see Lair of Darkness as much as possible, so I played 3 Arima, the Wicked Warden. Literally just second, third, and fourth copy of Terraforming. You can also tribute monsters to draw a card or search Diablos, and that can include your opponent's monsters with Lair on the field. Triple copies of the best card in the deck, Lilith. Being able to tribute to search for 3 traps, your opponent picks a random one and you get to set it on the field. This card can't be Ash Blossom because of the way it's worded. It searches traps for free, and because it's a quick effect tribute, this means if you have a Lair on the field, you can quick effect tribute your opponent's monsters for cost, so they can't react or anything. It's, in my opinion, one of the best cards in the game ever printed. This card is absolutely ridiculous, and this is kind of what makes Lair work as a whole. In my opinion, it's even better than the actual Lair of Darkness itself, but of course one really couldn't exist without the other, right? Then we got the 1 copy of Malice, Lady of Lament. This card is actually really strong. A lot of people have been sleeping on this. I think it's important to play this format because this is a slower deck, this is a slower format. You're going to run out of targets for Lilith, and she won't be able to tribute anything anymore. So what Malice does is she's able to tribute 2 monsters instead of 1, and she gets to place a trap card from your graveyard or banish pile, set it back on the field, and when it leaves the field, it goes to the bottom of the deck, therefore giving Lilith more trap targets. She still tributes to the opponent's monster, that's great, but keep in mind, Lair only lets you tribute 1 of your opponent's monsters per turn, not 2, so you will have to tribute 1 of your own. But I figured it wasn't that big of a deal because you have so many tokens in the late game that it just doesn't matter. She's also easily searchable, but I don't play her at more than 1 because she doesn't really do anything on her own. 1 copy of Diablos, untargetable, beat stick with 3000 attack, can't be tributed, can rip a card from your opponent's hand, and he special summons himself when you tribute a monster, and he can be in the grave or hand to do that. This just kind of wins against stuff like Altergeist or any deck that relies on targeting. This came up with for me for a couple of times against ABC and against Zodiac. Really strong boss monster, but he doesn't do enough, especially since he doesn't have any quick effects or anything, so I only play him at 1 just as like a win con for decks that really need to target. I actually sided him out a couple of times. Then starting with the out of archetype stuff, I played triple copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld. Special summon a fiend when she's normal summoned. This is an easy link too. and she has some other cool stuff that you can do with her. Something I really like is if you summon Lilith, she will have her effects negated, meaning she's at 2000 attack, but she can still tribute your opponent's monsters because it's cost. And that's kind of why people say Lair is a great teacher of the mechanics of the game. So 3 tour guide for sure, 1 Scarm because he can search Malice or Lilith when he leaves the field, and that's really great when combined with tour guide from the underworld. He also has 2000 defense at level 3. I know that sounds like, you know, Ooga Booga Goat Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, but it actually won me a game because one time I kind of grinded this Drytron player. He's running out of resources. I literally only had this on the field and he just couldn't get over the 2000 defense, and time went up and I won, so that was pretty cool. Now you guys are probably going to hate this decision, but I am playing the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon package. I think it's just too good not to run in this deck. It has a lot of synergies. It's just really broken in general. It's really free. You summon Tour Guide, summon Scarm with her, and then search for a Lilith after making your Dragoon. Kind of busted in my opinion. I'll talk about more Dragoon stuff when we get to the extra deck, but yeah, I am playing him. You could substitute these for traps if you think Dragoon is unfun or he's just too expensive for you. Now here's one of my favorite cards in this deck, Ties of the Brethren. So I slept on this card at first, but I ended up taking it to the tournament and it definitely helped out a lot. You target a Fiend monster, you pay 2000 life points to special summon 2 monsters with different names but the same type, attribute, and level. We run a ton of level 3 Dark Fiends, so this is just a great way to get Lilith out, especially if your opponent ashes Tour Guide. You just get to punish them for it by activating this card and getting like a Lilith search and just Lilith on the field in general. Then here we got 3 copies of Super Polymerization. This is less of a board breaker card in this deck and more of like a dogmatic of punishment. Because we change all of our opponent's monsters into darks, it means we can easily super poly all their stuff. And sometimes you're able to break boards with that, but a lot of the times I just end up activating Lair, doing my shenanigans, and then setting super poly as an interruption for my opponent's turn. You can also copy this with Verde Anaconda, which we'll get to when we get to the extra deck. Really, really powerful card in this deck in particular. Also, one thing I want to mention that came up in online testing before this tournament is Virtual Worlds like to make VFD and another dark monster, whether it be Bamboozling. I think Bamboozling's a dark monster, don't quote me on that. Or a lot of the times they just end on double VFD. You can super poly them during the standby phase before they activate anything because you have turn player priority. So yeah, super poly is really good. Now we're only playing 2 copies of Extrav, and I figured 2 copies was enough because we have plenty of Ash Bait. That's pretty much what the card's for. I don't want to banish my whole extra deck, and I don't want to see this card in the grind game. If I open it, great. If I don't, the deck can play through Ash pretty easily anyway. It's just some nice free draw power that you like to see mid-game. Double Artifact Sanctum with the Artifact Scythe. I know a lot of Lair players kind of go really balls deep into this package. I just don't think that's really worth it because you have plenty of other trap cards to run, and I'd rather have more targets to search with Lilith rather than just going for 1 trap card with a couple of monsters that if I draw it's just bricks. So I think the 1 Scythe is great because it's just an auto win against so many matchups. Of course there are matchups that don't care about Scythe, but I would say more times than not Scythe is going to win you the duel for free. 2 copies of Back to the Front. Special summon a monster from your graveyard in defense position as a trap card. So you get to do this during your opponent's turn. If you have Scythe in the graveyard, you can just Scythe them over and over and over again, which is why I like Scythe over Barrier. And you can also get back your Lilith or your Dragoon. Really broken card in my opinion. I only run the 2 because I don't want to open it. It doesn't interrupt your opponent without some graveyard setup first. And it's also searchable with Lilith and Trap Trick and all that. 3 copies of Compulse. I just wanted a really good generic trap card that wasn't a hard once per turn, so if I open it, it's like, you know, fine. It's also searchable with Lilith, and it just is generally a good card against any matchup. Really helped against the Zodiac matchup, and it also helped me in the Drytron matchup because when they tried to use Natasha's effect, I would Compulse my own Lilith to save her, and the Natasha wasn't able to summon itself because it lost target. 2 copies of Dogmatic of Punishment. This is kind of your 4th and 5th copy of Super Poly. You can pop back row as well if you send Intis to the graveyard, so that's pretty cool. Just really nice generic trap card that I think you should be playing in any trap deck. And finally, the 2 copies of Trap Trick to search your traps. I was originally playing 3, but I just don't think that was smart because you have to banish your traps to get it, and you can only use 1 trap, so opening multiple Trap Trick was just kind of awful. So just having the 2, so if you search 2 traps with Lilith, that you can actually search for Trap Trick as your 3rd trap and guarantee that 1 trap card on the field. And that's kind of really the only reason I run the 2 rather than the 3. And then for the extra deck, I run 2 Link Spiders to link off the tokens and get effect monsters on the field, which of course are effect monster. Our main link 2 is Verde Anaconda. He can make Dragoon, or he can copy Super Polymerization, which can fuse your opponent's monsters. Just keep in mind that it only copies the actual fusion part of the spell, so your opponent can still like react to this. And then of course we have the double Dragoons. Since we are playing Extrav, I played 2. There's so much synergy with Dragoon in this deck, it's ridiculous. He protects your back row with an Omni Negate. He's untargetable, he's indestructible, he's a big body. This deck really lacks in big bodies. You only have Diablos really, and he requires a little bit more setup to get out. Just such a dumb card, man. It's really broken. I really like that you can pop tokens with him, since Lair of Darkness generates tokens. And I also like that you can back to the front him just to keep on getting an Omni Negate and an untargetable monster on the field. Then for our Super Poly targets, 2 Mud Dragon, 2 Starving Venom, 2 Predaplant Trift Gaming. I refuse to call it anything else. This guy can protect your monsters from being targeted since they're all darks. This guy is just a big beat stick, and good old Trift Gaming here can negate the summons of extra deck monsters and destroy them. 2 Elder Entity Intis. These are your Dogmatic of Punishment targets to pop cards when they're sent to the grave. And then the Rafflesia, or Chimera, whatever the hell it's called, to search for a polymerization spell during the end or standby phase of your turn. So you send that to the graveyard, you search your Super Poly or your Red Eyes Fusion, and then you can either use it next turn, or if you're locked out of the extra deck with Punishment, you can set the Super Polymerization, use it as an interruption for next turn. Now my side deck was kind of whack. I had to build it in like 5 seconds because I was playing this online with no side deck, and yeah, I just had to come up with something. So I made a lot of back row hate with Feather Duster and triple Cosmic Cyclone. Really good back row removal, what can I say? 2 Ice Dragon's Prison, really good against the Eldritch matchup. We can search it off all of our, Lilith and Trap Tricks. Dimensional Barrier, I regret running this in the side deck. Artifact Sanctum is better. Locking Drytron out of Rituals isn't even a great idea. It just really underperformed. I definitely am taking out D-Barrier after this tournament. 2 Heavy Storm Duster for more back row hate that's searchable. Dinomiscus, because it just removes anything that's face up on the field. 2 Awaking the Dragons, and the Last Warrior from Another Planet. So if your opponent is just like going pure back row hate on you, this is really good to side, or if you think they're going to side game 2 back row hate because they saw you're playing a trap deck, this card's just insane. If your opponent Lightning Storms you, you can Trap Trick into this, and then they're forced to pop this. Same thing with Feather Duster. Otherwise, you just kind of hope your opponent pops it, and usually a decent player is going to like get rid of your back row before going into their plays, which they're going to do that, and then they're going to have a Rude Awakening with this card, who makes it so they can't special summon monsters. And if they do manage to get rid of this, you have a searchable back to the front to constantly bring him back every turn. It's kind of ridiculous what back to the front can do. Now, I would normally do test hands when it comes to deck profiles, but this is like a really slow control deck. Literally the only combo I'd show you is Normal Summon Tour Guide, Link into Verde Anaconda, Dragoon, set 3 pass, so I'm not going to do any test hands. So feel free to copy the deck list, try it out online, make changes you would like to see. If you have any recommendations on improving the deck, leave some comments in the below. I think it's good to kind of build off of each other's deck lists. I think it's really great to work as a community to make this deck better. I'm a huge fan of Lair of Darkness. I'm glad it overperformed I still can't believe I freaking won an event with it. That's crazy to me, even if it is just a local. It means a lot to me. And yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed deck profile. I hope this helped you guys build Lair in some shape, way, or form, or gave you insight on other card choices. And subscribe for more content, because I'm going to be opening half a case of Blazing Vortex on Friday, and I'm going to be doing a lot of deck profiles, including these beautiful Armed Dragon Thunder boys, and as well as some meta decks and stuff. So see you guys later.